Next up, we've got Italy, and this is the Italian lira. This is yet another currency that's since been replaced by the euro. Here we have two different versions of the 20 lira coin. This one here is from 1921, so it's 100 years old now. And it's in very impressive condition for its age. You've got 50 lira. You can see around the edge it says Republic Italiana, or the Republic of Italy. Got 100 lira. And I quite like the 200 lira coin with this side that looks with what looks like a machine cog around the edge of it. And with the lira you would have 100 centesimo in 1 lira. But this subunit was actually withdrawn from usage after the Second World War, and from then on until the end of the lira's usage, they would only use the lira. It'd be like if we stopped using cent in our money and only used dollars. Next up, we've got the Yugoslavian dinar. And this is quite an interesting one because not only is this currency no longer used, but the very country that it was used in doesn't even exist anymore. Yugoslavia was dissolved in the early 1990s. It went from being one big country to a bunch of smaller countries. These are the countries that Yugoslavia is today. And probably one of the reasons why the country failed was because of their money. You'll see why in a minute. We'll start off with their coins. With the dinar, you had 100 para to 1 dinar. You've got a few different versions of the 1 dinar coin. There's 2 and 10 dinar. And 5 dinar. Now, unlike a lot of the currencies I have in my collection, for the dinar I actually have some of the notes. You might be wondering why I said before that the money of Yugoslavia was probably one of the reasons that the state failed. And that's because what happened in Yugoslavia is something known as hyperinflation. Economic inflation is when money starts to lose its value. It doesn't have as much purchasing power. You might remember before that I said that back in the day when we had 1 and 2 cent coins, you could actually buy stuff with them, but these days you basically can't buy anything with 1 or 2 cents. And that's an example of inflation, because although 1 and 2 cents used to be able to buy stuff, these days it's basically worthless. And sometimes if inflation gets really out of control, and the money starts to really lose its value, it becomes hyperinflation. Now we all know that the biggest unit of Australian currency is the $100 note here. I've put a pinball on top of Mustache Man's head to stop the note bouncing up. If he does that, he bounces up, so stay down. And over here, we've got the 50,000 dinar note. Now this might seem like a lot of money, especially to put on one single note, but if a country starts printing notes like this, it's often a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing, some countries just do it normally, but it can be a sign that the money is starting to lose its value and they have to print bigger notes to compensate for it. So although 50,000 might seem like a lot of money, because of how low the currency was valued back then, if you tried to use this in Yugoslavia, it probably wouldn't even have bought you more than a few loaves of bread. And if you think this is ridiculous, wait until you see the rest of the notes. Before I start pulling the notes out, we're going to play a little guessing game. I want you to try and guess how big the biggest note will be. I'll give you a few seconds to think of a number. Alright, let's begin. So we've got the 50,000 dinar note here. Next up, we have the 5 million dinar note. Probably wouldn't even buy you a second-hand wheelbarrow. Next up, we have the 500 million dinar note. I think that's as high as it gets. Guess again. How about 1 billion dinars? You're still in the game? Did any of you guess 50 billion dinar? And the winning number is 500 billion. And here we've got the currency that Spain used to use before the euro showed up, and this is the Spanish peseta. For the peseta, you would have 100 centimos for 1 peseta. There's a few different versions of the 1 peseta coin. One has King Juan Carlos I, the other has Francisco Franco. There's 5 and 25 pesetas, 50, and this one says 100 pesetas, and 100 is a shortening of the Spanish word ciento, which means 100. So this is 100 pesetas. Here we've got the former currency of Portugal, and this is the Portuguese escudo. Got a 50 centavos coin here. You had 100 centavos for 1 escudo. Here's the 1 escudo coin. And there's some unusual number arrangement on these two coins. At first I thought these coins were 250 and 500 escudos. The first one is actually 2.5 escudos, and the other one is just 5 escudos. It's an interesting design with these ones. Normally the dollar sign you would see to the left of the number, but instead they've put it in between the dollar and the cents units. Another interesting thing you might notice is that the dollar sign has 2 vertical lines through it instead of the normal one. I couldn't find the reason as to why this was done, nor could I find the reason as to why they were using the dollar sign at all when their currency wasn't the dollar in the first place. We've also got an old Portuguese note here. Here's 100 escudos. But here we've got Banco de Portugal, the Bank of Portugal. Next up, we've got some money from the Netherlands, and this is the Dutch guilder. For the guilder, you had 100 cents to 1 guilder. We have a different queen on these ones. This is Queen Juliana. She was queen before Beatrix came in. Got 25 and 10 cents. And here we have a 1 cent coin, and this one's much older than the rest and is probably part of a different set. And this one has Queen Wilhelmina on it, and she was queen before Juliana came along.